His top circular, semicircular dome of the head, he like took that off, and then everything else he like cut in half. So I picked up someone's spine that used to be inside of their body. Yeah, I actually held a lung in my hand, real lung in my hand. So yeah, we walked into the room, we put on, no, we washed our hands, put on our gloves, and he had us all stand around a table. And, I looked at the table and, of course it was a body. There was a body there, but it had like a blanket covering it. And then he flipped up the blanket. So yeah, I finally went on that field trip last week and we went to a medical school, and it was a medical school of osteopathic medicine. And what the director or the dean, I think he was the dean or the director of the school, something like that, he told us that osteopathic medicine was just like normal medicine, but you focus on a patient as a whole. Like the typical kind of doctor is an allopathic medicine doctor, and then osteopathic focuses on a patient as a whole, which really means, he told us that it meant focusing on their whole life, not just diagnosing and treating their symptoms or any ailment or disease they might have, but focusing on their life, their work life, their home life as well. I still really don't know how that works, but that's what he told us. So we got there early in the morning and we walked inside. The lobby was pretty nice. It was big. It looked like a hotel lobby. But yeah, it was nice. It was really clean in there. And there were also some med school students that were there in the campus walking around, lounging in the lobby as well. They were in like the cafeteria, I think it was. Cafeteria little room. They were sitting in there. And it was just cool watching them all walk around and like in their school life. So the first thing we did when we got there, we went to the lobby like I said. Then we went to a briefing room, which it looked like it had like a round oval table like you might see in a movie. Then we went upstairs to the sim lab. And the sim lab was basically, it was like a big room filled with a bunch of mannequins. And the mannequins, they were crazy. They had mannequins that were pregnant, that gave birth. They had baby mannequins, normal, adult mannequins. They had like different body parts of mannequins. They had an arm where I guess students would practice with the IVs and finding the arteries and veins. There was one particular mannequin that we focused on, and it wasn't just a normal mannequin. It was like a robot kind of thing. It was laying on a hospital bed, a fake hospital bed. Most of the mannequins in the sim lab were on hospital beds, and it was breathing. Its chest was moving up and down. One of the professors at the school, she was in charge of the sim lab, and she was telling us all about it. How it can breathe, its eyes can blink, its pupils can dilate, it can make noises, it can have a heart rate, a breathing rate. Okay, she even said that if she wanted, she could make the mannequin bleed. It could bleed from its ears and its nose, its eyes, its mouth. Yeah, she said it could, she could make it bleed if she wanted. When it started moving, I like got scared because I wasn't expecting that. It was really crazy. One of the students there had actually gotten so weirded out, started having like a panic attack, and she like passed out. And then we all started panicking too, because like I saw her, she like started saying she felt lightheaded, and then she kind of like fell out, and I started like getting panicked myself because I'm like, oh, is she okay? What's happening? I wasn't expecting any of that. I did want to see the pregnant mannequins, like how it worked, like see their belly and everything and the baby, but we didn't get a chance to see that. We only looked at that special robot mannequin. The anatomy lab was the part with the cadavers and the dead bodies. The anatomy lab was in a whole separate wing of the school itself. And then that was the one part of the whole trip that we couldn't record. We couldn't take pictures. We couldn't even have our phone out at all. If they saw any electronics out, they would like confiscate it. Because the dean was telling us that, we can't take pictures of any cadavers or anything like that. If we were to do that and have those pictures on our phone, and if someone had posted it on social media, that cadaver is still someone's relative, it's someone's family member, because their body had been donated to the school. So if there was an incident where that did happen, then the school wouldn't be allowed to, he told us that, what did he say? He said the school wouldn't be allowed to get any more body donations anymore. So that was really, really crucial not to take any pictures. So yeah, the anatomy lab was broken down into 3 parts, that section. It was seeing the cadaver in the dissection lab, then there was the rubber lab, and then there was the hologram lab. Yeah, the hologram lab. So the first thing I did was the cadaver, the dissection lab. And so yeah, we walked into the room, we washed our hands, put on our gloves, and the professor in charge of the dissection lab, he had us all stand around a table. And I looked at the table, and of course it was a body. There was a body there, but it had like a blanket covering it. And then he flipped up the blanket, and it wasn't what I was expecting. I thought it was going to be like a whole body, but it was already dissected. I knew it was going to be dissected, I just didn't imagine it was going to be dissected the way it was. So yeah, he flipped up the blanket and showed us, he basically just showed us the body. He had the head split. The head was completely dissected. I didn't expect it to be like that. I thought it was going to be in one piece, but like the torso and like thoracic area was going to be cut up. It looked like he had taken, like I'd say this part of the head, this top semicircular dome of the head, he like took that off, and then everything else he like cut in half, because he was showing us the throat passages and the nasal passages like inside. It looked like, I don't know, I can't even explain it. It just looked exactly the opposite of what I was expecting it to look like. Yeah, and the body itself, he told us it was a male, and like on the back of the head and the top, I saw the guy's hair was still on his head. But yeah, he was telling us about how the body was being preserved. I think he said formaldehyde was being used. Yeah, he said formaldehyde was being used to preserve it. And yeah, he showed us inside. The brain wasn't inside the head, but it was in a separate container. He showed us inside the head, the nose, the throat, and the esophagus and the trachea. He was showing us like those passages inside, and it was just really crazy. He showed us the mouth too, because apparently that person had worn dentures, and he had the dentures with him, and he actually placed them in one of the halves of the face, and it like fit right into, I guess, that space where his dentures went. And it was just really crazy because they fit right in there. Yeah, then we moved away from the head and neck, and then he opened up the chest. It was cut from here, like a box like that. It was like an incision right there, and he like folded it back and opened up the whole chest, and he took out the heart, then he took out the lungs, and we were passing them around. He had took out the left lung and the right lung, and he let us hold them, which I didn't even think we were going to be able to do that. But yeah, he did let us hold it, and I actually held a lung in my hand, real lung in my hand. And it was just crazy. I didn't get to hold the heart. He didn't let anyone hold the heart, I guess. I don't know, I didn't ask why, but he didn't let anyone hold the heart. So yeah, we all passed around the lungs and he put them back. And then he moved down to the abdominal region and he was like moving around through the small intestine and the large intestine, the colon and the stomach and everything, the liver. He was just moving around, showing us what it looks like inside. And he was actually searching for the person's appendix. And that's why he started searching around through it. And he was just telling us all about the different parts in the body, how they function, and what they look like really, because we know how they function, but he was just showing us what they actually look like in person. And the last thing we did in the dissection lab was hold the brain. Well, I personally didn't get to hold the brain, my friend did, but he had an extra container under the table and he put it on top and inside was the brain. And he like reached in all this fluid. I forgot what he told us the fluid was, but whatever it was, it preserved the brain and kept it together. But yeah, it was submerged in a bucket of that fluid. Then he took it out and it was like a actual human brain he was holding. And yeah, it looked smaller in person than I thought it would look. He did tell us that the human brain right now, the human brain inside our skulls while we're living, it's not what you think is, not like a solid mass you can just hold in your hand. It's more like jelly, like free moving jelly. Yeah, he showed us the brain and we started to run out of time at that point. So that was the last thing we did in the dissection lab. Yeah, so that was the most exciting part of the trip. I was looking forward to that because it's not like I've ever seen a dead body in real life before. So after the dissection lab, we moved on to the rubber lab. What was that? Oh, that lab consisted of actual human body parts that had been rubberized. And the professor in charge of that lab was talking to us about it, and she told us that, the body parts were taken and all water was extracted from the body parts because that's really what makes them start to decay and rot and deteriorate, is the water content inside them. So all water was extracted from them and replaced with a certain rubbery plastic preservant, and that took the place of the water, and that would preserve the body parts. There were vertebrae, there was a piece of a hip bone. What else was there? There were vertebrae like the spine. There was a piece of a hip bone. There was more. I can't really remember. There were more bones, but I forgot the bones. And they also had a plane view of the body. And like the three planes of the body are coronal, sagittal, and transversal. And they had a sagittal and they had a transversal as well. So basically what those three are, a coronal view is a view of the body straight on. You're seeing me now. So like if, I was cut in half directly in the middle, that would be coronal. Then a sagittal is if I would cut in the middle this way. And you could fold me open like that. That was sagittal. And then transverse is it's as if I was cut this way. And you could view me from looking down or looking up. So yeah, they had a transversal plane, and really what they literally did what I just said. They had took a section of the abdominal region and like cut a thin section, like probably like this thick of actual person, and they had preserved it with the rubber preservant. And they also had a coronal view. So yeah, what they did, they cut a person from like their head down to, I guess, their hips, and they cut like thin section right down in the middle and preserved it. And you could actually look at it laying down on the table, their face. It was like a profile view, basically. And Yeah, it was everything inside of them. And it was just really crazy. Yeah, I picked up, and all the pieces there, except the plain views that were laying on the table, we could pick all those up. So I picked up someone's spine that used to be inside of their body, and I was just holding it and looking at it. And I was just saying to myself, this was someone's spine. It was just so crazy. The body parts, they did feel kind of weird. They weren't like wet, but they had felt like sticky kind of, but not sticky. But they just had a certain feeling to them. And then the craziest thing that I saw in that whole anatomy lab, those two fully preserved human heads they had. So they had the skin on there, the hair, the bone, everything. Because I looked at the head, it was like a whole face just sitting there with its eyes closed, just looking at me. And I actually got kind of scared because it just looked so creepy. And the eyelashes and everything were still on the head. The hair wasn't, but the eyelashes were still on the eyes. And it just looked so weird. And I actually got a chance to pick up the head and hold it and feel the skin. And the skin itself actually felt rubbery. Yeah, they had two heads. Yeah, they both kind of looked the same, so I only picked up one of them because the other one looked more creepy. Because I was kind of getting creeped out, so I didn't really want to, I just didn't want to touch it. It just looked scary. But I did pick up a human head and held it to my head and like looked at it in its face, which was just so crazy to me. And then the last part in the anatomy section was the hologram lab. Because what they had like these specialized computer screens set up around a room, and it was just visible body. Like that app I use in my anatomy class, it was just visible body, but they had 3D glasses that you could put on, and as you move your head around and look at what you're seeing on the computer, it moves with you. So if you zoom in, if you move closer, it will move closer towards you as well. You know, once I saw it was visible body, I was like, it's just visible body. It's the same thing I use every week. But I put those glasses on and it was a whole different thing. Yeah, that was my field trip. I had a blast. It was really fun, really interesting, especially seeing all the students at the school, because we were there during school hours. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed listening to me talk about my field trip. And yeah, don't forget to drop a like, comment if you find, med school and, healthcare, just different things about medicine interesting. Drop a comment, drop a like, and don't forget to subscribe.